It's just I could have heard you like in my head yelling the same things I was during a lot of that game. Just
Oh my
like
god!
I said, the Krebs like throw out there, and then the net like literally the next rush down. New Hooks like makes the smart play, gets the zone, keeps possession, and then they almost score. Like uh it was so much fun to watch that type of hockey. It was a great pace. It was I've missed it.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was exciting hockey. Overall, I mean, I was happy with watching that game. It's just getting invested with these players and getting invested with how well they didn't play is that's where my head's at right now, and I'll be fine tomorrow, but right now it's a piss off.
Yep.
Are we?
Yep, we can go.
We are live. I won't sing the American national anthem because that would probably be as bad as the kids sang tonight. Not that anybody cares about my singing or the U.S. singing. What they do care about is that the U.S. won the gold medal of the World Junior Hockey Championships by defeating Canada 2-0 at the World Juniors tonight. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at podcast_hockey. You are watching live on Facebook. Thank you for that. If you're watching live on YouTube, thank you for that. Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast. YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast. We will have an audio version of this coming out that you can subscribe on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. I feel kind of a little, and I'm in honor of the U.S. winning. I wore my Seattle Kraken T-shirt.
Oh, Kevin.
Hey,
oh, Kevin.
Hey. Hello, Devin. Hello, Sean.
Hello.
Hello, Kevin.
We all feel a little down. We're looking a little down, aren't we? It was 2-0 for the U.S. And this is, I guess, what there's a lot to talk about here. What we'll get through in a succinct point in time. Maybe I'll start with who wants to start. Kind of just get your thoughts on the game, overall thoughts on the game.
I thought that Canada came out strong for the first 10 minutes, as they have in every game in this tournament, but not scoring first and not scoring in the first 5 minutes. If you look back at their tournament, they've scored on average within the first 5 minutes of the game to get the other teams on their heels, and they weren't able to do that with the U.S. tonight, and that really threw them for a loop a little more than it should have. And then the U.S. came back, and the next 7 to 8 minutes was all U.S., and they got that goal, which was a really, really nice goal. That deflection from Turcotte was just a thing of beauty, and Canada just was never able to recover until the third period, when it was basically too late. Spencer Knight was in the rhythm. He was seeing everything. He was finding a way to make the saves that he needed to make and make him look easy. So this game was what I feared would happen if they played the US. The US they've got the confidence, they've got the cockiness, they've got the ability to just power through some, especially that first little bit in the first period. And then they just were able to capitalize on the two chances they really got. And all kudos to them. It was a great game to watch, just the wrong result for what we wanted.
Yeah, great pace to start the first period. They came out flying, both teams. The first 5 minutes was very exciting to watch. No one could really sustain pressure in the offensive zone. And then, halfway through the first period, finally, U.S. started showing a little bit more pep in their step, and they were able to corral the puck and keep it in the Canadian defensive zone. And they seemed like they had a step or half a step ahead of Canada, and that's what really made the difference of Canada being on their heels. I thought Bowen Byram and Jamie Drysdale in the first period they weren't themselves. That the defense, those two were the game changers in every single game other than tonight, let's say. I don't think that they had a strong game. Bowen Byram tried to do a lot, and he played a great second, halfway through the second period and into the third, but I don't know, it just didn't seem like the rest of the team was wanting to keep up with them, because anytime he got the puck, he was flying. He was dynamic. He was able to it's funny, he dumped it in one time, and you saw him going to get the puck to go get his own dump in. And he's a spectacular player. Colorado as a hell, like they are going to be solid on defense for the next decade. And that, as far as like the NHL goes, that's really scary, and that's going to be real fun to watch with him, Girard, and Makar on that blue line. But going back to the game, Canada just didn't have it today. You got to play a full 60 minutes, and especially at the beginning of the game when you get down 2 goals, it's super hard, and especially having that the second goal at the beginning of the first period, the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of a period, it's crucial that you need to make sure that there's no goals going in at that point, because that sets the tone for the next period, and that sets the tone for the period if it does happen at the first part of the period. So overall, I'm disappointed. Where the hell was McMichael? He wasn't fucking playing today. I did not see him do, other than that breakaway, which was, yes, he had a guy right on his ass, but I just thought that attempt was piss poor. And that's who really they missed overall, in my mind. Hats off to Devin Levi. I thought he played a great game. He MVP in my mind over anybody on Canada throughout the entire tournament. I'm really impressed with him. He made every single save. The first save, that Turcotte goal, he couldn't do anything about it. And I mean, he lost the puck behind the net for the second one, and so did everybody else, every other Canadian.
An unlucky bounce on that goal too.
Totally. Sorry, I'm rambling now, but overall, it's disappointing, and it sucks, especially getting to know these players, not getting to know them, but understanding who these players are, how they play. They got drafted, majority of them, or all of them got drafted. So it was, it's good to put a face to the name of these players, because they do have bright futures. But yeah, it sucks today.
Well, first of all, I'm going to start by giving the U.S. credit. Canada, same thing with Russia yesterday. They came out, they stormed the net, they took charge and got the lead early. Spencer Knight stood and weathered the storm, and I think that was one of the subtle turning points. Was Knight was on his game where Askarov was not, and it was kind of funny because Knight actually lost his stick early in the game. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Knight lost his stick. But he kept and closed the door down. And listen, Trevor Zegras was probably the most creative forward on the ice, making plays left, right, and center. That I just don't think Canada's defense had, in any way, shape, or form, had a match for him. Like we were questioning the competition tonight. He showed up. Lots of great plays there. So I thought that was great. And another guy I'm impressed and looking forward to talking with Joel about on Thursday is Cole Caulfield. I know he didn't score, but he was a force around the net. Really thought their defense was outstanding. Not only the six that they had, but the defensive game that they played overall was outstanding. So, and I think that one of the things that ultimately two things happened that we talked about throughout this entire tournament. Canada never had that adversity, first of all, that we were worried about. And the U.S. actually had a couple of passive adversity. You look back to the Russia game, which was that loss, and you look back to last night. They had the 3-1 lead against Finland. Finland came back and tied the game, and then Kaliev scores with 30 seconds to go, I want to say, last night. It was a minute 19. It was pretty late in the third period that the U.S. wins last night. Just that, to me, I'm not saying that, it's just unfortunate Canada never had that sort of any real close game to give them that test and that medal. And I think the other thing that we talked about is I think that ultimately the lack of creativity, yes, Canada scored 16 goals against Germany. But we talked about that, and we talked about how we couldn't remember one great goal. And that, I think, ultimately offensive creativity, especially at the end. You saw Peyton Krebs do a couple of back no-look passes to God knows who. There wasn't that creativity offensively for Canada, and I think those two things ultimately were part of what hurt Canada.
One of the things I saw, especially as the game wore on, the one thing that we talked about a lot throughout this tournament was the lack of puck support that Team Canada had throughout this tournament. It came back to bite them in the butt. They did not support the puck nearly well enough in this game. As Devin said, with Byram in the second period and on, he was a force, but he did not have the support. And when he did, they created chances. Like he hit that post on that penalty kill. They get that. This game's a completely different game. It was so close, but the big thing is that they were not supporting the puck carrier nearly enough, especially on the breakouts. They were stretching. I understand what they were trying to do, but it wasn't working, and it hasn't been working this whole tournament. Trying to stretch the ice, trying to make sure that the opposing team wasn't coming in with a very, very aggressive forecheck, because they know if they miss a check, they're giving up an odd man rush. But it just wasn't working, and they needed to come back and support the defense and give them that easy outlet pass, and it wasn't there all night.
No, they needed to keep things simple, support each other, make the 5-foot pass instead of the 15-foot pass. There's too many times once they got possession of the puck, even though it was it wasn't enough in the first period. The forwards were jumping the zone before the defense could really do anything. And I've said that this entire tournament, and that was very frustrating to watch. But to touch on how good the USA was, they played a great game. Trevor Zegras is going to be a hell of a fucking player. The way that he commands the offensive zone, it really reminds me of Jack Eichel. Head up, stick on the puck, and just the way that he just he commands that entire offensive zone, and he showed that today too. Getting 2 points on both goals, like that's spectacular. Cole Caulfield, he's going to be a hell of a player too. So in my mind, the better team won. Overall, they came together and they were able to overcome adversity. And yeah, that was the biggest fault by Canada, was they just didn't have that pushback from anybody that they played. I was hoping that from Russia. I was hoping to see that from Finland, but I think that's the biggest downfall, is that they didn't have a formidable opponent come to play when during any time during this tournament until now. And you could finally see the pushback happening. And that might have been also for the fact that USA started to retreat a little bit and play a bit more defensive near the back half of the game. And yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, boys. I can't say much else. And once again, like I'm doubling down on this, because where the fuck was Connor McMichael?
McMichael was someone that I was expecting more from, for sure. I expect more from in the offensive zone. I felt his all-round game was there. The back checking was there. He made a couple really good back checks in this game. But we talked about him in when he made that between the legs deke, and showing that confidence, that cockiness, the showboatiness. I'm making up words now, but Canada didn't have that. They did not have a game breaker on this team up front. They had a couple of them on the back end. Bowen Byram was one. Jamie Drysdale was one as well, but I don't think he played his best game tonight. But they did not have a game breaker up front when they lost Kirby Dach. They didn't have Alexis Lafreniere or Kirby Dach in this tournament, but you got to. They were a really good team, a really well coached team. I just don't know. Like, there's a couple things that just didn't work out, and the U.S. was always the team that scared me the most in this tournament, and this was why. They had the speed to match Canada. None of the other teams did. They had the skill to match Canada, at least in the top six, and they showed that that top six skill showed up tonight. And they had the goaltending to match with Canada. They had the goaltending that was, everyone would have said Canada, like, it was better than Canada. Devin Levi came in and stole the show this tournament, though. So going into tonight, I was like, okay, goaltending's a soft. Defense, I think Canada should be better. Offensively, it just comes down to whether or not Canada can build their forecheck. And they never were. The puck movement out of the defensive zone from the Americans was fantastic tonight. It was quick. They had the puck support to be able to make the quick, easy pass and then outlet it to the neutral zone. Canada did not have that option because they were so stretched out. And it drove me nuts. It drove me nuts watching that from Canada. And like, they would have like one of the forwards come back and hope they could build up a rush. But that was not Canada's game. Canada's game was the forecheck. They should have just methodically moved it up there, get it in, forecheck, cycle, and they would have created a lot more chances instead of how they approached it. But it's there's still a lot of prospects to get excited about on both teams. One of the as a Canucks fan, as a Flames fan for you guys, one of the most frustrating things you might that will come out of this is LA and Anaheim. They've got some absolute studs coming up. I talked about it earlier in this tournament, how I think Anaheim is set up just beautifully. Jamie Drysdale, Trevor Zegras. You've got your top defenseman coming up. You've got your top center coming up. You've got the building block pieces. In LA, they've got Brock Faber, who's building into some. It might be building into something. They've got Alex Turcotte and Quentin Byfield up the middle. Arthur Kaliev. I'm gonna throw a hot take out here. He's gonna be better than Cole Caulfield in the NHL. But it's just,
write it down. Timestamp it. Hit it.
But you look at that and just there's a lot of talent coming up through the ranks in those two teams alone. And then you got the Colorado, Drew Hellison on the US. He's a Colorado prospect as well. So they've got him and Byram coming out of this game looking good. And then again, Braden Schneider really impressed me this tournament. Yeah, he got that penalty and suspension after the first game, but he's a solid defenseman who's going to be a very good second pair defenseman who could be a shutdown guy in the NHL. Thomas Harley, quiet tournament overall, but slick, smart defenseman. Ryan Johnson on the US on the blue line as well looks really good. So that's the one nice thing about this is you look at, and the future of the NHL is in good hands. If you look at just even in this game period, let alone you look at Finland, you look at Germany, you look at Russia, you look at Sweden. There's a lot of talent coming up through in just in this tournament alone.
Yeah, you forgot Newhook as well for Colorado,
yeah.
And one person that we haven't talked about yet from Canada, Caden Gooley. I thought he had a great game too. So Montreal is a good prospect coming up there too.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Deb, but Gooley was one of the defensemen that really impressed me as well. Surprised me. I knew it was one of those things where okay, Schneider, I've watched him play. I've liked his game. He's a throwback defenseman, plays very physical. Byram and Drysdale and Harley, slick puck-moving defenseman. And then Gooley just surprised me in terms of he's got wheels. He's got more wheels than I realized, and just because I haven't been able to watch much of his games, but I was really surprised and impressed with how he played this tournament.
Yeah, and I do want to get onto the Flames prospects, Zary and Pelche. I thought Pelche stuck out to me. I don't know if it was me looking for him, but he was all over the place, finishing every check. He did have that stupid penalty for hooking. A bit lazy, but he, even after that penalty, coaching staff still ran him out there on a regular shift. If not, it seemed like, for me, it seemed like he was out there every second shift. I was very impressed with him, and Zary didn't get too much ice time in the first two periods, but I did notice him in the third period. And
one of the refs.
Yeah, I mean that was a bullshit call by the ref. The ref should not have blown that dead. I was yelling at the TV at that point too, just like Zary was yelling at him, because if I was in Zary's spot, I'd do the exact same fucking thing and probably be kicked out for my choice of words.
Don't worry, you're not alone on that one. I think that might be a family trait.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, I thought with Zary's limited amount of ice time, I thought he was noticeable. He had a good chance there in the third period with a great pass from Suzuki to him in the slot, and he didn't have much to work with, and but he got a shot on net and a scoring chance. So Flames fans, be excited for these two players. I don't think Zary is going to be one to jump straight from junior to opening night roster. Let's say he will have a year in the AHL, and then he could get called up depending on how well he develops. But I could definitely see Pelche pushing for a spot here, if not being a part of the taxi squad for Calgary. So I'm really curious and interested to see how he does in this, limited amount of time he's going to get with the actual Calgary Flames. He'll be coming straight down from Edmonton to join the crew down here. So, Kevin, what I'm curious about what you thought about those two.
I, for the most part, liked what Pelche brought. They were able to use him up and down the lineup. They were able to bring him in for a spark whoever needed to get going. I wasn't overly enamored with his penalty, but I mean, at the same time, I think you could make the argument that was a potential chance too that was coming. I think he needs a little bit more finish, a little bit more offensive work. Connor Zary, I really liked a lot of what I saw from him, but he wasn't used a lot. I think that one of the questions, and a lot of people were really angry. I mean, we'll talk about Turgeon here in a second. We'll talk about the issues about how he used some of his players. But Zary was on late. Zary's role was here to be more defensive. And he fought in every shift, and I think he did his role exactly what they wanted him to do. For that, I'm impressed. I would be interested to hear what the Flames brass wants to work on, because I don't see a guy quite ready for the NHL yet.
In Zary.
I think if I was to pick who was closer to be ready, I would probably say Pelche, but I don't think I would say either of them are quite ready for the NHL. Yeah.
I think they're both close. I think Zary's a lot more of a quiet player.
Yeah.
Well, Pelche is yipping right in front of the net, and I thought he had a good game as well there, Dev. He was probably in my top 5 in terms of top players for the game for Canada. He was in the mix every shift. He got away with a check from behind in the game.
Definitely
borderline for sure, but there was a few borderline ones throughout the game. I think a few other Canadian defensemen got away with it as well. So they were. It was nice to see the refs let it play. They set a standard and they didn't deviate from it, which was really nice. But
Mittens would be proud.
Mittens would be proud. Jim the House Sandlak would be proud of his son Carter, who was reffing the game tonight. But yeah, I said I think Pelche will push for a spot just with his tenacity alone. He's got the skating, he's got the smarts, he's got the ability to get underneath the opponent's skin. I think he'd have a better chance if there was some preseason games to see him in a game situation. That's the one issue with this whole thing for young players. Unless they're getting a spot right out of the bat, it's really tough to find a way into in there during practice. So it's. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them on the taxi squad. But it's still going to be a tough road. I think it's worth a shot for the Flames to put one of them on the taxi squad, but yeah, especially when you don't know what I know the W, there's so much up in the air with junior hockey right now. You do not know when things are really going to start up. If it's going to start up, we're seeing a little bit with the AHL. And I think the AHL's got a little more money behind it to be able to make it work. But with junior hockey, I don't know what it's going to look like. So I think that keeping them around and keeping them at least for now would make sense. But especially if you don't think that they're actually NHL ready, they can still send them down to Stockton. Because the WHL and the Q, well, the Q, I don't know exactly what the situation that the Q is, but as long as their junior leagues aren't playing, they can play in the AHL. as far as I know, based off of what I've seen on Twitter. That all the rumors flying hit this way, that way, and everything, and information flying. But as far as I understand, they are able to play them in the AHL until their league starts. So, or at least send them to camp there.
And it sounds like Quebec's going to go into a lockdown too, another one. So that's I don't see the queue starting up again anytime soon.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I guess the Flames can, like, I guess my point is with this condensed schedule. I mean, there's some pro and cons about how you're going to handle these players, right? I mean, they are fresh legs that have ice time. So maybe at the start of the season, you want to throw Azarian and Pelche and see what they can do. You want to throw in that young, fresh, warm leg, as Derek Neumeyer called when we did our World Junior preview. But on the other hand, you can also be patient, right? And you can, like, we don't need Zary and Pelche to make a difference in our lineup.
Yeah. No, especially with the amount of NHL caliber players that they have. This is probably, as far as my recollection goes, this is the deepest NHL-laden lineup in Calgary that I've seen in years, over a decade at least, if not even more. So I want to see Pelche. I say Zary, let the WHL happen. I don't think you're going to make a difference. I'm not as high on him as I seem to, as you, Kev. As of right now, will he be an NHLer? I believe he will, just not yet. And the other thing you got to think about is Pelche is a year older as well.
Yep. Same stuff. Yeah. So, a couple you talked about Connor McMichael. The one person I did want to get, and this might be your last-ish topic, looking at the time, is Quinton Byfield. There was a lot of conversation about what was expected of him. A lot were really disappointed in what they saw in Quinton Byfield. I'll start this by saying that I wasn't. I thought that as part of the second period, he was a guy that was noticeable for me a bit more. He did create some chances. At one point, he had a really good chance in the second period. He was on late. Could there have been more? Possibly. Yeah, I can see that, but I think there was people that were saying that he disappeared. I just completely disagree with that. I thought he was engaged in the game. I think what maybe needs to happen is maybe the next level is how he engages better. Maybe that's the issue. But I think the argument that he disappeared, I don't think that was a fair, because I do think he was engaged.
Yeah, he was. He was engaged. He had a couple good shifts, but throughout the turn, other than the one game, I didn't feel like he was at the top of his game. And this is one of the toughest World Junior tournaments for players to be at the top of their game. Like, you haven't played it. You haven't played. Usually, you've played half a season leading up to this, and then you've had a really competitive camp. But unfortunately, Canada had not many players play a single game. You had the COVID quarantine issue halfway through their camp, and then it's just like I said, I'm not gonna throw Byfield under the bus, because I don't think he deserves it, but he just wasn't up to snuff. But like I said, it's one of the toughest tournaments to even like try and evaluate a player. We talked about this in the last recap, where you have Kevin. You were comparing Askarov to Levi, and now we've got Knight versus Levi. Again, it's just short tournament, small sample size, coming off of one of the weirdest years we've had. Not playing much before the tournament. I'm giving him a pass on this. He's a much better player than he showed in this tournament, but as a Canadian and wanting them to win, he just he left me wanting more in this tournament.
Yeah, he definitely left me wanting more too, Sean. My biggest thing is that, okay, if you aren't that big of a hockey nut, and you just take a look at this past draft, Quinn Byfield went second to LA, Tim Stützle went to Ottawa. You had Lucas Raymond after that, Jake Sanderson, Drysdale, Holtz, Quinn, Pulfetti, Rossi, Askarov, Lundell. Like, go down the list of that first round, and you will see majority of players that potentially played better than Byfield. And just the fact that he went second overall, I think that's what people are putting him way up high and having high expectations, because he was a second overall draft pick, and he definitely was not his best. But once again, it wasn't for a lack of trying. It's just the circumstance that this year and what COVID has brought to the hockey world is that you're not at the top of your game. So it's unfortunate. Don't write him off. If you write him off now, you're an idiot. Period. Stop. And you need to give your head a shake, because these kids have a lot to prove, and they have a lot on their shoulders. But Quentin Byfield will be an effective NHLer. I truly believe that, and the LA Kings have a great player within him. So yes, he had a shitty tournament or not a good tournament, but he's just a kid. Let him grow.
He's still eligible for next year's tournament, and if he's back, he will dominate.
Yeah,
he will dominate.
I think he will be back. I don't think that where LA is at in their as a NHL team, they're not going to be contending. So let him marinate. There's never a bad thing to let a player develop longer. I look at Detroit being kind of a streamlined version of that, is that they let everybody marinate down there in the AHL, or just not even bringing them up in right away. So just keep that in mind.
If I'm LA, I'm playing him in the AHL until they know what the OHL looks like this year, and then you let him come into camp next year and see where he's at. But I'm not rushing. He's not someone you rush at all. He was a very young draft pick in this year. So they say he's got one more year left to be in this tournament, and if he comes back next year, and I agree with Devin, I think he will, he's going to absolutely dominate, and that's going to be fun to watch. But like I said, Devin ran down, like Lafreniere wasn't playing, but all the picks 2 through 12 were, and Stützle, one of the best forwards in this tournament. Raymond played really well. Sanderson played really well. Drysdale, one of the best defensemen in this tournament. Holtz had an underwhelming tournament, but still was a little bit better. I think was better than Byfield. Quinn.
Hold on, but before we go to Quinn, Holtz, he showed his shot. And he showed how dangerous he can be in the offensive zone. And yes, he didn't play. He didn't show up on the score sheet too much. But him and Lucas Raymond played an amazing game together. And so Holtz, God, New Jersey. They're watching this tournament and they are smiling.
Jack Hughes, Nick Uhishier, and Alexander Holtz are going to be really good together.
Oh God,
yeah,
that's scary.
Jack Quinn, I just don't think he meshed well with this team.
He didn't. Yeah, I don't.
For whatever reason, it just every line he went on, he was good, but every time he was like whoever they put out on instead of him worked better for some reason. Just didn't quite work. But he's going to be good. Don't sleep on Jack Quinn. He's got a good shot. Marco Rossi, just unfortunately playing for Austria. They were the one team, like all this talk about like revamping the going to an 8-team tournament. The only team that really stunk it up was Austria, and they still had Marco Rossi. And there's only so much he could have done with that team in this tournament. Minnesota has a stud of a player in Marco Rossi. Cole Perfetti was, again, I was underwhelmed, but he's going to come back. Byfield and Perfetti next year, watch out. They're coming back. Both of them are coming back next year.
Perfetti, it didn't sound like he got enough ice time that I liked personally, and I thought that when he was on the ice, him and Tomasino, I thought that they were similar. They were, in Tomasino more so, obviously, because he got the goals, and goals mean everything in this game. But I thought that they were cut from the similar cloth in the sense that they just didn't get the ice time that I thought they should have gotten.
And then you've got Askarov, who was hot and cold. I liked Ray Ferraro on TSN 1040 today, basically calling him an unmade bed. Like he's got all the skills. You just need to hone them in. He played. I thought he played really well today for Russia. It's just I could go into. I could talk big on Russia. Ray did a great hit on 1040 talking about that too, talking about the difference between the KHL style and the style that Larionov wanted to make the team play, and I think that really threw the team for a loop. They were not playing hockey; they were thinking hockey, and when you're thinking hockey, when you're on the ice, you're not going to win. So that was the biggest issue with Russia going into this. And then you've got Anton Lundell, who really stepped up and was clutch today for Finland. I talked about it when we reviewed the draft. Having Lundell learn from Barkov is going to be really good for Florida.
It's going to be scary. Sorry, Kev, go for it.
Florida's going to be one of those teams that's going to be interesting to watch too. Like, I mean, they made one of the dumbest decisions of the decade that they're going to have to live with for a long time in getting Bobrovsky. But they're going to be a fun team. They'll be a team to watch, I think.
Well, yeah. I'd give Bobrovsky another year to figure things out. Give him goaltender. We've talked about it. Goaltenders are weird. They can have off years. He had a really off year. Like, he just give him time. Give him another year to see where he's at. If he's still absolute shit in front of in Florida after this year, then we can start talking. Spencer Knight, you're probably going to marinate him a little bit longer because of Bobrovsky. Yeah. You're gonna let him play because he's done 1 year. He's draft plus 1 this year. You're gonna let him go draft plus 2, maybe draft plus 3 in the NCAA, but I bet you they'll try and sign him after this year, and then have him play at least a year or two in the AHL, and then bring him up. The Corey Schneider, the Thatcher Demko, the Vasilevsky as well went through that, although he got called up, I think, after 1 year. But goaltenders do take a little bit of time, and taking that step from junior NCAA to AHL and then to NHL are big steps. So don't expect Knight, Askarov to take that step and make it in 1 year. Those goalies are few and far between. We've seen it with Carey Price. We've seen it with Carter Hart in recently, but I don't expect it. If it happens, that's a blessing for both Nashville and Florida, but don't expect it.
I want to just go back to Anton Lundell. I think he's underrated. I thought he played a great two-way game, and he's just going to continue on that track. And having Barkov to learn from and to marinate with, like that that is going to be a scary 1-2 punch within the next 3 years or so. And yeah, as far as Florida goes, I mean, Dale Talon's not there anymore. Thank God for them, actually, because I feel like he made a bunch of stupid moves. Overall, I was not a fan of him, and this is the second year of Joe Quenneville. Coach Q, he will amaze you, and he will, he's a bit of an old school coach, but I feel like giving him one more year or another year underneath the leadership that they have down in Florida, with Ekblad, with Barkov, with Huberdeau. I think that they'll be a sneaky good team.
Yeah. The one thing is they need to start making moves and start pushing up the standings, because Barkov's contract's up and he's a UFA in 2 years. So Lundell looks like his contract in Finland is up after this season. So hopefully they can get him over and doing that tutelage under Barkov for the 1 year, and hopefully they can build on that going forwards. And then, like I said, they've got Devin Levi and Spencer Knight coming up through the ranks on the goaltending side. Spencer Knight looks like the real deal. Devin Levi could I want to see how he does going forwards. We talk about how goaltenders can get hot and go on a heater and really just stonewall teams. I want to see what he does going forwards, but he looks good, and this was a very, very good tournament for him.
Just ask Andrew Hammond and Jim Carrey how hot streaks happen.
The net detective. The net detective and the Hamburglar, two of the best nicknames in hockey history.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing I just want to quickly mention, we'll wrap this up here, but Teresa Feaster, I think we need to congratulate her for a woman to first assistant coach to win gold in the world, woman assistant coach to win gold. I hope I worded that right.
Yeah, female assistant coach to win a medal in the World Juniors, and it's gold. It's great to see. I'm loving seeing some of these coming out. I know we talked about this earlier, and one of the things I said was who are the candidates, because I legitimately didn't know, and that was the one big thing for me, is like, who are the candidates? What have they done leading up to this? And Teresa Feaster is building a resume and building a good one, and in a few years she could be someone who could get consideration for coaching or even management positions in the NHL, and that's great.
Yeah, and Nate Lehman as well. I think I can see a coaching position for him in the future. I was what I saw. I was impressed by him as well.
Yeah, the one thing I touched on this a little bit with the going back into with the Russians. I think that I hope that this is a bit of a wake up call for them, trying to figure out what they're going to do. I would love to see them go back to trying to do the possession style that the Red Army had back during Larionov was playing, but they need to figure out what they're doing and align it with the KHL, because that's the biggest issue. They said they were thinking hockey, they weren't playing hockey, and that was that really hampered the Russians going into throughout this tournament, because they weren't able to actually just let their skills show, because they were on the most skilled teams, but they just did not have the system. They did not have the ability to let that skill show. I loved watching Podkolzin show his character and his leadership, both in the quarterfinal both in the semifinal and the bronze medal match, just showing, saying, look, step up, boys. You have to step up. This is not acceptable. He gets it. He's one of the guys who gets it. He may not be the most skilled player, but he gets it. He's got the hockey sense. He's going to outwork you, and the Canucks are going to love him when he gets here. And it's not going to come fast enough, but I'm going to love him. Amarov, I enjoyed watching as well on the Leafs for the Leafs. I thought that line was really good. When Russia disappeared, that line was still there. Him, Podkolzin, Amarov, and Kuznetsov, who's a Columbus pick, all looked really good throughout this tournament. And outside of that, it was them and Askarov who were the only ones who you could really say stood out, good or bad, with Russia, in my opinion.
Yeah, so tomorrow we are going to have the Sens Hour podcast. Maybe I know that they've been digging into the World Juniors as well. They had I would consider a hot take, actually, about the defensemen that they took in comparison to a couple of Canadian defensemen. So we'll tease that. We're scheduled to speak with them tomorrow about doing our, as we're doing the Northern, what do we say now?
It is the Scotiabank North Division.
The Scotiabank North Division preview. We'll start. We have the Ottawa Senators, the Sens Hour podcast. Derek and Shane are going to join us tomorrow. They did a pretty deep dive on one of their latest episode about what's going on. And of course, they've got Tim Stutzel, who's coming, so they're going to be very excited to talk about that. Then Devin and Sean, who did not yell at each other as much, but they will be yelling at each other on the Oilers YYC podcast tomorrow.
Or we'll be yelling at Oilers fans together, and that'll be fun too.
So they'll yell at each other and then unite and yell at Oilers fans. That's
for the people who are watching and listening. The first time I ever met the Oilers YYC crew, where else would I meet people? It's at the Pig and Duke, and they recorded, and then Chris and I decided to photobomb them and be creepy on Twitter with them, and then they invited us over for drinks. Just a couple more drinks later, and we're yelling at each other about Cam Talbot being whether or not Cam Talbot was like the third best Canadian goaltender at the time. That was during his first season as an Oiler, where he like absolutely stood on his head.
Played 70 games.
Yeah. So it was quite entertaining. These guys are pretty awesome, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome, even though they cheer for a shitty team.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say that about you there, Dev. So
right back at you. Right back at you.
Then on Saturday, we will have the Fireside podcast on. Dan and Matt will be doing a deep dive on the Flames. And then on Sunday, Stefan Roger will, from Canucks Army, will be joining us and we'll be doing our preview of the Canucks. So we've got lots going on.
And on Tuesday the 12th, we will also have.
I keep forgetting this.
Yeah, we got Graham Mosman from the Oilers YYC podcast on to talk about the Oilers, and then we still have to find we'll find someone to talk about the Jets and the team that actually has the best top six in the North Division.
I'll have to get back to them. I'll follow.
I
was really hoping for a reaction from Devin with that take.
The best top six.
Yeah,
I know you're just trolling at this point. We all know. We all know who. No, stop it.
I legit, honestly, like look at them. Like it's. I think you can make an argument. It's neck and neck.
No, it's not neck and neck. You can make an argument, but it's not the right argument.
Let's wrap it up here. You guys,
hold on.
Wait.
One thing I do want to say about the Leafs is that they've had the top defenseman 2 years in a row with the World Juniors. Last year's Rasmus Sandin and this year's Topi Niemela. And that is exciting for me as a Leafs fan. And yeah, I cannot wait to see how both of these players develop within the system. And you're gonna have Sean just smirking over there, thinking that he's all that with his Canucks, but legitimately, Niemela, he played amazing. He had a point in every single game except for one game, and he's a spectacular player. So I want to give a congratulations to him.
I'll be interested to watch how he develops going forwards, as well as Sandine, who was the one last year. See where he's at. We talked a little about it last night about where Dermott's at, but Sandine's also someone who I think will be pushing hard for a top 6 spot on the Leafs this year.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
All right.
We didn't get Sean yelling too much so Heidi can sleep. So it's been a successful podcast.
How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Canuck 03 on Twitter. I'm
Gord Howe 09 on Twitter, Heidi.
Heidi is Heidi Baseballs. Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. Tyler T. Noble, who got a shout out that's like someone is demanding that he comes back on this podcast and give his opinions. Damn it!
Well, we will be getting Schneid's and Mittens back on Sunday when we do the Canucks preview, and that'll be awesome to get them both back.
Who?
Mittens.
Well, we miss all Heidi too. We miss all of them.
Heidi will be joining us on Saturday to go over the Flames as well. So we're going to get the whole crew back again. It won't be just Devin and I yelling at each other and Kevin giggling in the background.
I'm not even giggling.
He doesn't giggle. He just hates puppies.
I don't hate puppies. Thomas Drance, who's terrible at puns, has a puppy though. Anyway,
and he's more than welcome to come on this podcast too.
Yes, Thomas Drance, you're welcome to come on this podcast. Bring your dog. We will be welcome. Anyway, I am KVOLE, podcast_hockey. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on all podcasts. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.